Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I'm your host, Chad Porto, and joining me is the glorious one himself, the co-host with the mostest, Marcus Green. Marcus, how are you?
Good, happy belated Thanksgiving to everybody. Hope everybody is warm, full, and full of some familial joy out there.
So I see we're on to new categories of Pornhub. Familial joy. Arkansas's number one trend.
Hashtag incest to impress.
Hashtag incest is the bestest. So, so we have a new gag. We have a new gag on the show. It's official. Let's start off with the big headline from, I guess, yesterday or the day before. Sasha Banks revealed that the rumors that everyone said weren't true in 2019 were, in fact, true. Despite the WWE fandom and numerous Sasha diehards. Sasha hards? Dashards? I'll figure it out eventually. It turns out that she did, in fact, request her release from the company in 2019. Shocker, shocker. I'm not surprised. You're not surprised. I don't like speaking for you, but I feel in this case I can because who would be surprised? This company's ran like a shit show. They fire everyone every 6 months. They find new ways to not pay people. They're so gung ho on doing the whole, like, hey, look at us. We're going to pay for your rehab. We're awesome. And that's good. I can admit when that's good. I can also admit when that's nothing but a mask. Where it's, hey, we're going to pay for your rehab, but don't ask us about health insurance. Hey, we'll pay for your rehab, but our contracts are super predatory. So it's like, this company's kind of terrible. They're bad people. They're bad people. And you are who you associate with. Sasha Banks apparently didn't want to associate with them anymore, and she wanted out, but Vince conned her into staying. Now, that was my words. She said convinced, but convinced, you know, all you need's a little
Con,
Vince.
Con and Vince. That sounds about right.
Yeah. All you need is a little Vince. Turn from con to convinced. So she stayed, and she's done nothing for 2 years. Oh, but Chad, she's won titles. Has she? Because they're not memorable. They're not memorable, people. The last memorable run outside of Roman Reigns was who? John Cena's U.S. title run? Come
Damn.
on. Ron Simmons' WCW title run? I mean, come on. That was a good run, actually. It was short, but it was good. A lot of good matches in that run. So, Sasha's grade A. Like, I'd say B+, but she could be grade A. She needs better storytelling. She needs better characters, better programming, better writing. She's everything you want in a wrestler. She's attractive. She's athletic. She's marketable. She has a unique look. She can cut a promo. She's entertaining on the mic. She's got 5 tools. WWE don't know how to use any of them. They're all like, which tool does this go to? What do I do with this tool? Well, apparently nothing if you're the WWE. Marcus, did Sasha Banks make a mistake and not leave the WWE when she had the chance?
From a fan's perspective, I'd say yeah. Obviously, from her perspective, I mean, she has so much invested in the company. She literally, I mean, essentially, she built herself up in this company from the ground up. A lot of people would say because she was, um, kind of essentially demure coming up in NXT, and she had this promo I think with Summer Rae basically told her to put up or shut up or change how she was, and then that's when we start seeing that boss character way back when, and she's kind of just been we've seen her hone it into what it is today ever since. Um, I mean, 100% agree with everything you said. She's a 5 uh, person type of tool in a really shitty toolbox.
Yeah.
5 premier tool in a really shitty toolbox. Absolutely not surprised about her leaving. She's never really been one to shy away from voicing her criticisms of the company, the way she's been handled, the way the division's been handled. Um, she probably maybe not going as hard as she could have, but she's certainly not been um, allowed herself to be silenced in that regard. I mean, it's severely frustrating. She's just probably more vocal than most people because they're just kind of keeping that. They got that eggshell mentality and they just happy to be there. But she talked about it. She left because she was so just downtrodden and depressed and just kind of just stuck in the mud and really just really trapped almost in the persona of Sasha Banks to where she almost was kind of forgetting who she was underneath and she had to take a mental health break. Thankfully, she wasn't fired doing it. Um, but yeah, I just think, for a lot of people saying all the success she's had, it's like, look, man, you can have all that success and still not really be doing anything. And I think it's ironic that people trash that Divas era so bad. I mean, the only difference between it feels like that those Divas then and the women now is that these women just aren't doing it in bra and panties.
Yeah.
They still getting they may be getting worse storylines and equally short matches. Look at that Queen of the Ring tournament uh, from a couple months back, and yeah, it's just like you said between the mishandling and juggling the talent and the bullshit excuses and just really trash PR in general. I don't see how more people aren't talking out like she is, but initially when you brought that up, I thought you was going to talk about because I hadn't heard this until you brought it up. I thought this was in concerning that whole thing about her and Bailey throwing a fit,
Oh
that
yeah.
whole deal.
I think
Yeah,
didn't that coincide with her requesting that release? Because that
it
was
might not.
2019, I think.
Yeah, the time frame might have not been that far off, but yeah, I definitely get it. So it's ironic that somebody like Bailey probably feels the same frustrations, but she had the unfortunate but fortunate um opportunity of an injury to be forced into a break,
Mm-hmm.
if you will. So, yeah, it's not surprising at all. Like you said, she has all the tools, you know, probably more so than people, double her age at her young age, and it's just, it's crazy. But we've heard a lot of times Vince has verbally finagled people in the stand that are far more, I guess, stern-minded like Mark Henry and so many others. So I don't know what he says when he gets them into that room or whatever, Vince Pimp Juice of Magic he works, but that's insane. Also, I would imagine he backed up the money truck for as well, specifically with all the people he was probably going to release. I would imagine she what's the term? Pay me for my pain. Yeah.
I think the words that he said to her are, "Here comes the money, money,
No,
money, money, money,
stop doing the damn dance, Shane. Get back.
dollar, dollar, dollar bills. You're not fired. Ching, ching, make the clatter." Those are all the lyrics I remember. I wanna hark on something that you said real fast. You mentioned that the storylines today are probably worse than they were in the Diva era. I would counter with the floor and the ceiling for the women's division has elevated. The bottom this division can go will never be as low as the Divas division because, like you said, there's no bra and panties matches, there's no mud wrestling or chocolate pudding matches, there's no Playboy bunny gown strip matches, so it'll never be that bad. But
Yeah.
the ceiling has also raised considerably. We used to look at Mickey and Trish, a very sloppy, mediocre match, as the best the women had to offer. Lita, who did a moonsault, and that was really it, was one of the greatest in ring performers. We've elevated past that. They've been lapped, so to speak. But I would say that your point does hold a lot of water because there wasn't that much room between the ceiling of the Divas division and the floor of the Divas division. Like even good Divas wrestling was bad comparatively to the men. Now with the
Yeah.
women's division, it's so much different because the best women's wrestling is comparable to a lot of good men's matches, and the worst is still better than anything we got before. But there's a significant difference now. And I feel like your point of it being worse than Divas era wrestling could be very accurate, especially if you look at it in the mindset of the difference between good and bad is now far more skewed than ever before. So if you have bad women's matches, it's still better than what we got before, but it's far less than what we have come to expect. And I
Yes.
think there's
Yeah, and I'm
something
glad.
to be said about that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you went deep into that point because I was specifically, with the Divas thing, talking about just the presentation of it because in terms, like I said, you don't have the bra and panties matches. Obviously, the talent in the matches are far superior. Thankfully, it's a completely different generation of talent. They got brought up a different way. You ain't just pulling women off photo shoots and then throwing them into the deep end of the pool. But like I'm thinking about storylines. I'm like, I'll take that freaking Tori Wilson dad with Dawn Marie storyline over anything they did with Lana and her cavalcade of men. Then freaking bringing in Liv Morgan as a freaking last minute lesbian, and I just, like it's absurd. I mean, let's not even dive into the whole Alexa Bliss gimmick stealing whole situation, and we it's been worse to it. I mean, freaking Natty had a Putin gimmick at one point.
You
I know that was years ago, but it's like in certain instances, it's almost worse from a what they've done with these storylines. Obviously, the wrestling, but it's like I don't know how they could get even lazier with some of the stuff they did. But yeah, it's interesting.
Well, like Malcolm, I think his name was Malcolm in Jurassic Park said, Vince it finds a way. So yeah, and the other point I wanted to mention was Sasha Banks is arguably their best all around wrestler. Charlotte is good in the ring, but she's a hole everywhere else. Becky Lynch isn't a great promo, even though people like her, and she's not very athletic, but she can put on a good match. But Sasha is good on the mic. She's good in the ring. She's athletic. She's dynamic. She's marketable. She's everything you want, and yet she's everyone else's hanger on. She's the also ran, the and with the special guest star, and also and that's a shame. She's too good for that, but here we are.
Yeah,
Speaking of here we are, Marcus. It feels like 2005 all over again. I'm just graduating high school. I'm a young gun stunner. And I'm ready to attend college. And two Kentas are ruling the world. Kenta Kobashi and Kenta Kobayashi. The latter being Kenta, the light heavyweight Noah super god, who, of course, went to WWE as Hideo Itami. Because that's going to put butts in seats. And then back to Japan, only this time with New Japan, returning to Kenta. Well, Kenta is coming back to Noah. That's right. It's his big first week of January for Noah and New Japan. Lots of cross promotion. The third night of Wrestle Kingdom is going to feature a Noah New Japan Supercard mashup rivalry. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. But on the 1st of January, the same night the WWE is running what was show first or first show or the first or whatever it's stupid called. Oh my God, it's so dumb. You see the name of the show, Marcus? It's the worst. They just announced it, I guess, today on Raw. It's on January 1st, 2022. And my web browser's taking a second to load. I don't know what it's called, but it's not good. It's like the first or something like that. And the same night the WWE's doing that, Noah's going to be bringing back Kenta back to Pro Wrestling Noah for the first time in years. He'll be returning at the Nippon Budokan. I feel like it's like the Nippon, but I can't pronounce it correctly. It's the Budokan. I could say that word. Marcus, Kenta's back in Noah. It's one night only, but this is awesome. I love wrestling. This is great. I love this. Are you as excited for Kenta in Noah as I am?
yeah, man. We just talked about it with everything. With, with the New Japan Noah crossover, um, everything that's going on with that, and just I mean, ultimately, even if you don't watch Noah, you're not a necessarily a Kenta purist, if you will. Just the fact that story is coming full circle is a very interesting thing. I mean, because left Noah and then I think went to WWE and
Mm-hmm.
then New Japan.
Yes.
And just that journey of what he's gone through since that time, last time he was in Noah, what he's evolved into. Just that story alone is worth tuning in for. Like you said, even if it's for one night only, the level and caliber of talent that he had and the story of that journey from Noah to now be back in Noah and the man he was as opposed to the man he is now. That's something to tune in for.
Blue-haired, older emo goth Kenta. That's how I like to describe this version. The new WWE show that's debuting on the first Saturday, January 1st is called Day One. Your guess is as good as mine as to why.
Wait, what? Day one? If it got something to do with the Usos or something? Like,
I have no idea, but the main event is Big E versus Seth Rollins, at least the Raw main event.
okay.
So there's gonna be some interesting stuff with that show, I guess. Speaking of interesting, speaking of bad storylines for bad wrestlers, my butthole Nia Jax got released from the WWE. Her crowning achievement was falling on the ringside apron once going in my butthole. Legacy defined. She changed her name to her real name, and everyone on the interwebs like she got a new ring name, and I'm like, that's her real name.
That was so damn stupid. Everybody and their mama ran with it.
Nope.
Everybody and their mama. I'm like, girl, y'all, didn't nobody went to Wikipedia? Nobody?
That's what I did. I
Like,
saw that.
I'm like, dude, even if you Google it, it'll come up on the side. What the hell? Like, it was that low news of a day.
Yup.
Oh my God, Nia Jax is gonna re-debut as Nina Fenene. I'm like, okay. All right. All
Finnan.
right.
Finnan. Well, what's this? An episode of Martin? What was her name? Shenane?
Yeah. Fenene, Fenene.
Shenane. Finnan. So she said that she went to Twitter. She's like, "That's my real name, homie." And I was like, "Yeah, no shit, I can Google." And she's like, "If I do end up deciding to wrestle again, I don't know what name I'm gonna use." I'm paraphrasing, but like the big takeaway was she was like, "Yeah, if I come back to wrestle," and I'm like, "Wait, you might be done wrestling? Are you saying there's a chance?" Now, usually when a wrestler walks away, I'm like, "Oh no, you're only 37. You got so much time left on your career." In this case, I'm just like, "Lord and Savior, have mercy. Keep the devil gone from this holy existence."
Just take that scene out of Rocky Four and put her in the Ferrari. There's no easy way out. There's no easy. There's no shortcut.
Are we just gonna like hyperimpose my face on Rocky as he's doing all the lifting in Soviet snow Russia?
Because me and Chad are douches, we just got the highlight reel of her injuring people over and over. There's no easy way out.
Fun fact: the same dude who did the music for the Rocky series did the music for the Karate Kid series. Not the songs like "Easy Way Out" or "Glory of Love," but like the final bell, dan 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 dan. He's the same dude that did the score for Karate Kid.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
confirmed. Rocky, Daniel LaRusso, same universe. I don't care if that's true or not. I'm gonna run with it in my headcanon.
Freaking brought up Karate Kid. I had they brought on the second one the other day, and I was flipping through the channels and I landed on that scene where he was on the rock crying for his dad. Like, when Daniel came and comforted him, I'm like,
oh yeah, when Miyagi, yeah.
Yeah, crying on the rock and needles that sunset. Oh man, I was like,
yeah, that was a scene, man. Oh.
The fact that this whole franchise legacy and lineage is being carried on through a series, and they're capitalizing and calling back to all these moments. It's not like when LaRusso showed that old dude Hansen had those fake bars. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
"I see, you're not so busy." It's like the fact that they brought that full circle and that little ass hat is a good guy now. I'm like, that's crazy.
I love that. Like, that was great. What was that? Season 3 of Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Uh,
that. That was so good. I'm gonna rewatch that entire series. It's so
but
good.
back to something you won't be rewatching. Any of Nia Jax's matches.
Oh no, we're done. We're moving on. I've given her 2 whole minutes, and that's 2 whole minutes I'll never get back. Speaking of getting back, more like giving back. Let's talk about Dave Prazak. He. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I think I am. He's a longtime manager and backstage dude for early day Ring of Honor. He was the ring announcer at one point, I think. He's kind of like the Tony Chimmel or who's Impact's and ring announcer? He was in WCW. David Penzer. He's kind of like the David Penzer of the indie scene. Is the best way I can describe him. And he's been announced as GCW's Independent Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame inductee. He's number 4, joining Homicide, Jerry Lynn, and Ruckus, which is a very heavy mid 2000s Ring of Honor flavor. So they're clearly establishing what era of wrestling they're inducting for their first year of inductions. So that's pretty slick. He's not a name that a lot of people will know, and he's not a name that really warrants a long discussion because a lot of his stuff is important, but it's not very conversationally important. Like, it's not going to be something that we can go 20 minutes on. I just wanted to give the dude recognition because he has been a long-time mainstay in indie wrestling, and I think he had something to do with FIP for a while. So, the Full Impact Pro out of Florida. So, shout out to him. Congratulations. He's number 4. I wonder if they're going to have any more. The ceremony is the 22nd of January, so it's entirely possible that we could see some more guys pop up. But if we don't, then, yeah, it's not bad foursome. Moving on. Let's see. What do we got next? Oh, yeah, WrestleHouse. Marcus, we got WrestleHouse this Thanksgiving. And you know what
Yeah,
I'm
man.
thankful for? The fact that I only had to watch this nonsense once.
Oh, did it click with you?
It did, and I'll explain why it did and also didn't. The first WrestleHouse was a weekly segment. We went through several weeks of content with the show with Impact. It was during the no audience era. Right? Am I remember that correctly? Or did I get hit in the head too many times by that snake recently?
No, I feel like you're right.
I feel like I'm right too. I often am, so I should trust myself. I feel like the segments were short. They weren't, an hour and 30 minutes long or 25 minutes long. But I feel like that was where this stalled out. I feel like if you put all the clips of the original WrestleHouse together, assuming that my memory is correct and that it was across 6, 7, or 8 weeks, if you put them all together, I think you would get a full episode of Impact for about an hour and 20 minutes, like what we got on Thursday. The problem is, I don't think this works as long-formed storytelling. I think that's kind of where the issue I had with it was. It was a mini movie, but a lot of the acting wasn't great. The storyline wasn't all that intriguing, and the hilarity wasn't as necessary as it needed to be to carry an entire flick. Now, if you're doing a 3 or 4 minute segment, I think you can get away with it, especially in a show that's relatively serious. It's kind of that idea of even bad pizza is good pizza. But that only works if everything else you're eating is spinach and tomatoes and cucumber. Yeah, sure. But when all of it's pizza, well, now you just have a lot of bad pizza. So I feel like WrestleHouse 2 would have worked a lot better if it was in smaller increments across multiple weeks. But I understand why they did it. They wanted to have a specialty show for Thanksgiving, so I get it. That said, it had its merits. It definitely had a lot going for it that I really enjoyed. The running gag of Chris Sabin always being shirtless was hilarious. I thought that was arguably the best part of the entire thing. Caleb with a K constantly seeing people in slow motion. Everyone kind of going like, what? Constantly bringing up that Crazy Steve's blind. Like, all that was great. But then they like really overdid the whole we're going to kill Johnny Bravo again storyline. And they gave Johnny Swinger way too much airtime. And they kind of shoehorned a lot of things together that I didn't think fit well. Hernandez trying to do comedy was in itself funny, but I don't think he was very funny. Alicia isn't a great promo, and they gave her a lot of lines. And yikes, I love Lish, I do, but I love Lish in small doses when she's yelling. Not when she's trying to formulate a plan with Madison Rayne. Madison Rayne was the unspoken MVP. I thought she was great. She really does have a presence about her when she acts.
Yeah, I'm wondering, was I the only one sitting there asking, like, who in the hell house is this?
Yes. I was too. It's obviously someplace in Vegas.
Yeah, but I also was sitting there, like, I wish Impact would get more credit for this. Like, I get the most crap is the WWE has failed with, and then now AEW is getting all the praise, and there doesn't seem to be a happy medium because always the Impact will always be the redheaded stepchild. And they don't really get enough credit for even pulling off stuff like this in a real credible way. Like, just having the opening narration and the continued narration with James Mitchell, I loved. Because the fact that it went back through the last WrestleHouse, explained all the storylines, and then brought into the elements that fall back into this one, I thought was great. And the whole, the theme of it, the rhyming, the holiday situation of it, I dug it. The fact that they addressed the fact that they wasn't at the last location of the last WrestleHouse. They even addressed the whole Tommy Dreamer absent thing. And I think to your point, if we compare the two, a lot of it had to do with they was kind of building up something with the last WrestleHouse. This is kind of the fallout of that. I think cast had a lot to do with it as well. And maybe, like you said, maybe because it was segmented, like something like this kind of does need to be taken in doses, kind of like some of these characters do, like a swinger. But I think overall I enjoyed it. But this is more my speed anyway. Like, because with me, I'm like, okay, as long as they commit. And to me, the funniest running gag was dead ass regular Taurus.
Yeah, just reading books.
It's a Fistaroos. Like it's just hilarious to me. Like you said, the shirt, the Saban shirt stuff, elderly ass Willie Mack.
That was great. Downtown Willie Brown.
You slept with my dog. She was 23, damn it. Straight face Madison Rayne all throughout the thing. Yeah, it's just a lot of elements. I just think it was more intriguing in the last one because you had Double XL with the love storyline. You had Valkyrie. You had a lot more interesting elements in that last one than this one. A lot of these guys in this one was tag-alongers.
Well, and also keep in mind that Tommy Dreamer wasn't back. AC Romero has left the company. Ty Valkyrie wasn't back.
Exactly.
Cody Deaner wasn't here. So they lost a lot of their bigger, better personalities from the last one, and they tried to replace them, and I don't think they did a great job. Like, Caleb with a K is a decent gimmick, but he's a great worker. You know, I once likened him to a lesser Dean Malenko. Like, he's not a big personality. He's trying, and like he's definitely finding his way in this gimmick, but he's not Tommy Dreamer. He's not Cody Deaner. Cody Deaner's been doing that gimmick for a decade, longer than that. So it's like you were going to be limited by what you could do because the talent you have isn't better. Like Jessica Havoc, say what you will about her as a worker, which there's a lot to be said, is not nearly as impressive as Taya Valkyrie as a personality. Like, she's not.
No, absolutely. Yeah, she doesn't. That chemistry between Rosemary and Taya, just for the sheer fact of them being complete opposites. Like, we know that Havoc has kind of been slotted into this role because Taya's not there, which I want her to come back so she could just kind of fall back into the groove. But which would be an even greater tie-in with this whole Bravo situation because she basically was trying to save his life the last time. But yeah, I definitely think Cass has something to do with it. Like you said, Lish in doses because I didn't know, like, because we only get her in such small doses. pun intended. Like I'm like, is her voice always this raspy, or is it just
Yes.
okay? Got you. See that?
Yes.
See? But it's like Senator, I was never on steroids. I'm like, wow, why did she? Okay. Um, but yeah, it was like I said, I appreciate the fact that they put out this holiday special, and it's not like you're gonna get your big wigs. Like you'll never see Moose here or
Well, they got
Josh.
Eddie.
Oh yeah, they did get they get, but you can always almost liken that. I mean, with the Lish tie-in and the fact that this dude used to openly have a relationship with a kendo stick,
True.
that makes that slot in work. But to see Moose or somebody serious, Josh Alexander, like God forbid, if we ever see Joe Doran, they done jumped the shark. You know what I'm saying? Like so,
The
you
only
know,
way Joe Doring works is if one of the Swingerellas does like the old Mission Impossible gag, where like she flings her hair in the face and like reaches down and pulls off the fake mask and reveals it's to be Joe Doring. Like that would work. I would love that.
yeah.
The best part I thought was like the opening line. They're like, "Hey, where are we?" And she's like, "We're not in Chesapeake anymore." And then everyone's like, "What?" And
She can never Chattanooga.
Rosemary goes, "She never learned how to say Chattanooga."
Yeah, that was Steve the Rosemary.
Oh
I
yeah.
like that, and then I like, I'm out of here, Daddy. So, hi, Swinger is yours. Oh hell, hey, what the hell was that, Swinger? It was the freaking ghost of all Rizats, Daddy.
I will say this: bringing in the demon was fantastic,
Yeah,
and establishing him as the real demon was even better because he had that line. He's like, "Yeah, as a pro wrestler, yeah." And then Swinger's like, "Oh yeah, Daddy, you're the demon. You're Gene Simmons. You're one of the one of the greatest hell and guitarist band members of all time, Daddy. Yeah." And then Demon leans forward and goes, "I'm also one hell of a hitter too," which is
yeah,
implying the fact that he used to be a Major League Baseball player and hitting coach for the Chicago White Sox. So I was like, "Yeah, it is Dale Torborg. I was right."
yeah. They did a lot of great callbacks and shout outs to wrestlers of old. And I got to ask you this because it's you. How did you feel about the 3-man booth?
I didn't like it. That was, I thought, the
Yeah,
biggest waste of potential. I don't know who the doctor dude in the middle was. I know I'm supposed to. I thought that was one of the guys from AEW, Dr.
yeah,
Luther, I think his name was, or something like that. James
yeah.
Mitchell, I love. I'll take anything James Mitchell related, but I feel like he was kind of neutered with the people he had. And did you realize that who Sin Bodhi is?
No,
Do you remember Kiznarny?
makes sense. Beard, got it.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's Kiznarny is Sin Bodhi. Sin Bodhi is actually an old school TNA original from like 2003, 2002. So that was cool to see him back, but I think he said one thing that was funny on commentary. And I don't even remember what it was. And it wasn't even that big of a laugh. I just went, huh.
yeah, yeah. That
Like
was
that
interesting.
was the biggest waste of potential.
Yeah, James Mitchell is just all like you said. Take any James Mitchell thing we can get.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it definitely has its ups and downs. Like I said, I appreciate the fact that they did that as a special. I appreciate the fact that they did what they could with what they had. It was entertaining and fun in a lot of spots. Like I said, freaking Tarus in regular clothing, still like grunting and stuffing out and freaking reading. Hilarious
With
to
the little
me.
glasses on his mask.
He even looked like he put on cologne. So yeah, yeah, but it's gonna be interesting seeing where they take it. Like I said, I wish they get more credit for doing segments like that because it really was kind of reminds me of Endgame where it's like if you weren't caught up on the stuff that made this like 20 years worth of storytelling, then you just went in on it. But for the people that's been there, like for me and you that's been following all these little storylines and narratives from the first WrestleHouse, this was for us. Even if we didn't like it all the way, like they paid off long time views for something like this, which I appreciate.
I do want a third one.
Yeah.
I just want it done a little bit differently. If you're gonna have the same cast, do it in 5 or 6 minute segments on Impact. But if you can get back Taya and Dreamer and maybe add a few other names to the list, maybe a Jordan Grace, I think that'd be interesting, or a Gail
I,
Kim.
I think somebody like Chris Bay
Chris
trying
Bay
to
would be great.
yeah.
Swan, could you just imagine Swan? But like, here's Swan's entire shtick. He shows up and gets scared just once, like he sees something like candy corn or something ridiculous, and he's stuck making that face the entire time, like his eyes protruding. He's just kind of snarling. He's like, I got scared. Now I can't make my face go back to normal. That's his gimmick for WrestleHouse. Oh, I would love that. That would be hilarious. So I want to see more, just either in smaller increments or with better talent, because the commentary booth especially was really bad. Although I did like Chris Sabin's new slogan. I love this match. Like, that was great. I love that. Plus the Swingerella #1, the one that was constantly into Caleb with a K for some reason. I wouldn't mind seeing more of her.
No, I mean, absolutely. I thought that's why they brought Saban in, because they had a little. Is that the one that was kind of crushing on Saban at the Palace, and then they had to break up?
I
The whole
think
Palace
so.
thing? That's why I was like, why does she? Okay, she's all of a sudden into. It's weird. It was weird to me because I'm like, wasn't she into Saban? I'm like, this would be the perfect time for her to jump back into Saban since everybody and their mom was turned on. The first time they did that thing, I was like, okay, that was brilliant. I'm like, oh, this gonna be a running gag with the shirt. Brilliant.
Caleb's just throwing shirts at him. Put them on. So overall, I would say it's a C. I was disappointed, but it was still something worth checking out because it's very different. Definitely very different.
Yeah.
Speaking of different, if we had gotten a non-COVID 2020, we may have gotten one Mr. Maven Huffman on our TV screens. Apparently, Maven had met with Triple H the day everything got shut down, or was scheduled to meet with Triple H the day everything got shut down, to discuss joining WWE as an announcer. I gotta say that I wouldn't have minded that, at least to hear. Marcus, we talked last week about the idea of Maven returning to WWE, him returning to wrestling. We know what his limitations were as a performer, but do you think he would have made a good in-ring worker? Kind of like, what's his face from NXT Season 2? He got moved over to commentary after like a 5-year hiatus.
What are you talking about?
Percy Watson?
Oh yeah, he did get moved over. Yeah, they did. They've really gone through a lot of announcer guys.
Yep.
But yeah, I think I would love to hear him on commentary. He was actually a good talker. If I remember correctly. So I think somebody like Maven would be real cool. Also, we've seen him as a performer. Like I say, he's still in my mind held one of the best drop kicks that I saw during that time. But yeah, I think that'll be real cool. But it's interesting now, 'cause like I said, they shuffled through so many people to now that, I mean, we sitting here, or as LaCoa Graves is still a thing, but we got Pat McAfee as one of the more prominent voices, and oftentimes entertaining. Cool. I mean, it's not that hard. He's sitting next to Michael Cole every week, but Pat McAfee is now a problem. Like, remember when freaking you remember David Otunga was on?
I remember his wife. Uh,
Oh man,
that
but
dude's body was bigger than it should have naturally been. Like, I don't mean like in terms of like size. I mean like when you look at him, it's like muscular arms, muscular legs. Well, then just 4x barrel chest, and you're like, that seems unnatural.
yeah, him and E could have had a peck off. Yeah,
So yes, David Otunga was on commentary. I think Maven could have done a better job than David Otunga, for sure. But we won't know. But it's kind of one of those things. Like, and this is kind of why I love wrestling. You know when something's about to happen, right? A name will crop back into the conversation from out of nowhere. Last week it was, well, I'm coming back to wrestle. Cool. Now it's this week. It's like, well, in 2020 I was going to come back as an announcer. So Maven's back in the conversational zeitgeist of pro wrestling. Where does he go from here? Because that's how it works in this business. Like, once you get back into the conversation, you start getting more bookings, you start getting more appearances, start getting more requests, more interview requests, more appearance requests.
yeah,
How will Maven capitalize off of this?
yeah. I mean, even if, because obviously it'll be superiorly stupid for them to fire as many people as they have and then try to reboot Tough Enough. But I think it'll be cool to see him, like, maybe if they did do it, him pass back through that, because obviously he, was one of the more, relevant names out of that scenario. So But obviously that's not gonna be a thing. Even if they could bring him in good for a guest spot, like anytime they would think to have like a guy like Sam Roberts on those pay-per-views, just throw Maven in there.
Yeah.
Just throw Maven in there. You dig? Like there's some familiar here. Obviously, I would imagine he's been keeping up with the product. I hope he was. And just throw somebody. You got to throw some new blood in there, man. Keep things interesting and get some good-looking people on TV. Like you don't, you don't have a whole thing about freaking HD and all this overproduction that you have with your product, and have this thing about looks, and then throw freaking Sam on your freaking TV. So
Marcus's hatred for Sam Roberts is legendary. And like the funny thing is, like sometimes he says something, I'm like, yeah, I agree with Sam Roberts, but then he doesn't shut up, and I'm like, oh God, I can't believe I agree with Sam Roberts.
yeah, it's weird. Then if I'm trying to tune into what he's saying, I can't get away from his face. I'm like, you looked weird when you just had hair and no beard, then you cut all the hair off, and now you got the beard. You look more creepy. Like,
He's a creepy Willy Wooly. Wooly Willy? One of those, right?
yeah, so it's interesting, but I definitely prefer somebody like Rosenberg over him for no other reason. He doesn't always sound like he's coming off like a 100% kiss ass.
I don't like Rosenberg either. Rosenberg and I got into it on Twitter. Did I ever tell you this?
No.
I think this is before he became a regular contributor, but he was talking about how the WWE signing, then named War Machine, now named Viking Raiders, was a good move, but the name was really problematic. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, well, that MMA fighter, War Machine, Jonathan Copenhagen, beat up Christy Mack, the porn star, and that's a bad association. I'm like, in 3 months, no one's going to care what that dude's name is. It's a stupid argument. You're just being butthurt about this. Now, what he did to Christy Mack is disgusting, and I think Copenhagen's going to be in prison for the rest of his life, thank God. But to be like, now everyone with the name War Machine needs to change because of this. Like, bro.
Like you would not disrespect Rhodey like that.
No, like you are vastly overestimating how mainstream this story actually is, because it's not. In 3 weeks, people aren't going to be talking about it, and they didn't. So I was like, dude, you are way too sensitive. It's a name. Calm down. That's like saying like no one can be named Mike or Tyson anymore because Mike Tyson once raped a woman. It's like, that's a stretch, bro. That's a stretch, bro. Like, no, stop. So, yeah, fuck him. That's a long way around.
Yeah, but I do hope if he wants it that Maven finds some way back in.
I would love that. I would love it in anywhere he goes. Like if Maven were to pop up in Impact, just kind of doing the demon thing, I would love that.
So this is those scenarios where I really miss Lucha Underground, because they could get away with bringing in so many obscure names. Like they had Barrett come in as I think like one of the head business guys or whatever. They had a comedian Godfrey come in that was working. Like somebody like Maven would have been an interesting face.
Wait, Godfrey came in?
Yeah, a comedian named Godfrey.
Like Godfrey the comedian. Like
yeah,
he talks like this.
Oh, not him. Another.
Oh, okay.
He's an African comedian. But
okay.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Like I said, Maven is definitely one of those names where we look at like, what the freak is he doing now? So just to see him potentially have some type of comeback, like you said, NWA, MLW, wherever, maybe
GCW?
WWE is the place. Hey man, if it calls, it falls. Well,
GCW had a match with the Invisible Man, so like.
Oh yeah, well.
Maven could find somewhere to fit in GCW. Exactly. And if he wants to really establish himself as like a top guy, or at least as a guy that should be demand respect, have him do Bloodsport with Josh Barnett. Like have him, throw some serious fucking forearms with people.
Absolutely.
That'll make people take notice of Maven.
Yeah, I almost mentioned the honorable ring, but we know that's gonna be a switch. And speaking of that,
yeah, Marcus queued me up on the cameo, and I forgot to get a picture, so we'll just stick with Maven for the moment. Mike and Maria, they had big plans for their tenure in Ring of Honor. Like I'm really impressed that you queued me up like that. Like that was literally the next story. I'm impressed.
Learn from the best.
So Mike wanted to go back to Ring of Honor and make an impact, have, no pun intended, have some great matches, show that he's one of the best workers in the world, and maybe even win some titles or two. He kind of did that. He won the tag titles with Matt Taven. That's something. But you could tell he really wanted to be a Ring of Honor World Champion. Even if he never said it, that was kind of what he was alluding to. He wanted to be the guy for Ring of Honor. He'll be fine. He'll find work either in NWA, MLW, Impact, or wherever. But Maria, according to Mike, is having a little bit harder of a spell. He said, quote, when asked how Maria is handling the situation with Ring of Honor where they dissolved all their contracts and basically fired everyone, Mike said, I won't sugarcoat it, she was devastated. This was her dream job because at the time, Maria was booking the women's division and handling all the creative for it. Back to the quote. She said to me not long before the phone call where everything was told us, she said to me, in my career, this is the happiest I've ever been. Jesus, she jinxed herself. Back to the quote. And I remember thinking that, and I looked at her and I said, because it was what you're meant to do. Maria has done a ton of cool things in her career, but watch her with those girls and to watch everything come together and watch her and Bobby Cruz, which just kind of work together and take something that was pretty much dead in the water in a matter of 6 months, make it one of the most talked about things in all of wrestling. It's all a testament to her and Bobby Cruz and the girls she brought in. I think the one thing that I find solace in, and I tell her this all the time, it was like, this was just the test run for you. Because what you were able to do with what you were handed, and in the short amount of time that you were able to do it, is nothing short of a miracle. It was miraculous. I'm blown away. I think the fact that she was able to do it and now build the confidence and the fact that she's Maria and there's nothing I would ever put in front of her that I don't think she can accomplish. I truly, and I know this is cliche, I know it's bullshit, and everything everyone will say it, but I truly believe she's only just scratching the surface of what she's going to do. Yes, she was crushed. She was hurt. If you know Maria like I know her, and Matt knows her, she's just going to use this as something that pisses her off more and to keep moving forward and to do something else someone tells her she can't do. Marius, there's a picture-perfect place for her, if they're interested. And it's women wrestling. They made waves by signing Tessa Blanchard. Not great. Then they brought in AJ Lee to help with the development and not development, but the creative side of things. Having AJ Lee and Maria running women wrestling kind of makes sense. You have a female owner in You have a female owner in Lakers boss Jeannie Buss. Your top star is Tessa Blanchard, for good or bad, and you have AJ Lee. You could bring in then Maria, and that's a pretty fearsome foursome that fans could probably get behind. Marcus, Maria, sucks that she's as devastated as she is. She had done work in Ring of Honor. I didn't watch a lot of the women's stuff, so I can't say for sure how good or not it was. But she did her work. Do you think there's a place for her in wrestling as a behind-the-scenes individual? And if so, where do you think she could end up?
Absolutely, and like you said, with wow, that would be a unique combination. In my mind, you brought up Tessa. I would imagine she wouldn't want to make any more waves. She can help it, but I wonder how those two personalities would get along because obviously I think Tessa kind of carries an air about herself, and I just wonder how she would like working with somebody who's kind of would be running her direction, if you will, with somebody who she may view as not necessarily on her level in a way. So I wonder how that would work, but that was just something that briefly flashed in my mind. It may 100% work fine or whatnot. And that would be interesting, like you said, that holy women's trinity of Jeannie Buss, AJ Lee, and Maria. And obviously, like you said, with Tessa, for good or for bad, kind of spearheading the action of it all. But it was heartbreaking hearing you go through all that. Just because I know it stung even more so for Maria because that's where obviously they cut their teeth a lot. Mm-hmm. So isn't that where she met Mike?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's so much, even aside from what she was doing with the women, just history there. So I would imagine she's not only heartbroken for that position, but what's happening with the company overall. But talking about with the women, it really did feel like that got built from the ground up. They had been trying it for years, obviously to no avail in a lot of scenarios, but this really felt like that momentum had finally hit the right gear to go down and keep some consistent momentum down a quality path, and crown the champions on a really credible show where the women's match was probably one of the best ones. And she had a lot to do with that. And you can kind of see the pride beaming for her when she was introducing and talking about the match before it happened. So that sucks because I think it obviously she could go anywhere else. I just think it was more a sense of pride that would have hit because of how much work I think she was putting in the Ring of Honor. But kudos to Bennett and Mike, who we know has had his trials and tribulations, ups and downs, and stuff that they've both gone through, specifically with his battles
Mm-hmm.
with stuff. So for him to have to, kudos to him for being that rock because it's hard to know what to say to somebody when they feel like the entire floor has just been ripped from under them, and
Mm-hmm.
she's a working mom too, which I know is another added bonus for her to being able to say doing what she's doing and being a mom and a wife and all that. So yeah, kudos to him. But she has gone from that hot, bubbly airhead to just something completely different. Um, in wrestling, that probably wouldn't have worked for a lot of other people, but she made it work. And the fact that he said that she can, that's probably one of the most underrated things he said was the fact that she can work anyway. She really can. It's just that I think we both can agree that she fits better behind the scenes, or obviously we've seen what she could do with a valet, but for her to be able to go through WWE and kind of see those workings and absolutely see what wasn't working, and then go to Japan and obviously they don't have a women's division, but seeing just a presentation difference and then going to Ring of Honor and seeing what needs to happen and then kind of building off that to get it to where it probably should have always been. She got so much knowledge that she really will be an asset to anybody. So, WoW I think would be an immediate first spot. I can't necessarily see her go back to Impact. I think Gail and whoever else is doing with the women is doing a pretty fair job. Although she could go back there too. But I think WoW, because it does feel like they're trying to refresh stuff. I think that would be a prime destination for her.
Well, Impact did just lose Petey Williams. Petey was doing a lot of backstage stuff for them, and he left to join up with the WWE. So there is now a spot, one would think, in Impact. I feel like Gail Kim has done enough with the women's division that if you wanted to, you could promote her or have her take over main event stuff. Because keep in mind, they also lost Scott D'Amore. Now, I don't know if people have been filling in or being replaced, or if there are long term or short term options filling in and being replaced. But in theory, there should be a spot or two in Impact behind the scenes for Maria to flex that creative muscle. Will she want it? Who's to say?
Yeah. Damn, they lost Scott too.
No, Scott's still there. Did I say
Okay.
Scott? I thought I said Don.
No, you said Scott Demore.
Oh, no. Don Callis. Sorry.
Oh,
Don
Don's.
and Petey Williams are gone.
Oh wow. So Don's like fully on AEW now.
Yeah. Yeah, his
Gotcha.
contract with Impact completely expired from on screen and managerial. So there should be, in theory, room for Maria to join up with the women's if she wants to work exclusively with the women's. Then again, Gail and Maria both done enough work that I think if you wanted to, have them in a more featured role as a producer or as an agent or as a creative mind, you can do that. And I don't know what the status of Jimmy Jacobs is because he was a writer for them. So was Archibald Peck, although I think Peck is still there because he was just on screen a couple months ago as a lawyer. So there's availability. There's potential across the industry. Who knows where Maria ends up. And even if she doesn't end up in backstage somewhere, she's a great talker and could be easily a manager again if she wants.
Absolutely.
All right, last up on the night we have Taya Valkyrie, Frankie Monet, whatever you want to call it. She went out and said that she believes the WWE will be sold within 5 years, and fans lost their mind. They're like, "Oh, you're just bitter. You're just angry. You're just this. You're just that." And I'm just sitting here going, "We've been saying that for a year. The WWE is releasing all these people to maximize profits to attract the highest offer possible. That is the only logistical reason why they are cutting so much of their workforce, so they can sell themselves. That's what they're building to. It's not been confirmed, But everyone who works in finance says that this is exactly what you do. You lower the what is it? The cost of labor.
Yeah.
You minimize your expenditures, so you have a higher earning floor. So people go, "Oh, you're worth 1.1 billion instead of just 1 billion." Okay, they're being so like they're going to sell themselves eventually. It's going to happen, and it's going to be
I
to
mean,
someone like ABC or NBC.
look what you. I mean, you. And these are just people that just I don't get that immediacy of this um, defense of something that doesn't need defending. The writing's on the wall. Or regardless of what happens, the way the way you're so immediate to defend the company, clearly you're gonna be watching wherever they go or whatever they do. Um, and why would you question somebody who's been behind the scenes and had the ear of people and been in those circles to hear this from other people that would know far better than you would as a what not damn near a fifth party? Not even maybe a fifth party. You don't matter in the grand scheme. I know that's gonna suck, but you don't. Um, but you've been talking about this for years. They've been slowly building towards this, like moving away from the network, like you said, Peacock. The switching that they've done with the managerial things. Who was that guy that said if it was up to him, SmackDown or Raw be 4 hours instead of three?
I think that was
Like,
Khan, not
yeah,
Khan.
Khan
Yeah, no
bringing in
Khan.
guys like that. All these cuts that they've done, other little acquisitions and obviously cuts. Not to mention the fact that with everything that they've been doing and citing budget cuts, they've basically been in the black for a while now. Um,
They haven't not been in the black in 25 years.
yeah, so that they've slowly been building towards that, and it's all about that global expansion, whatever that looks like. At this point, the performers are kind of just their ornaments on the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Period. And that can and they either can switch it from ornaments is cool for right now because obviously it's still kind of centered around wrestling. But if they want to just switch to all peppermints, necessarily the founding narrative of what the bigger picture is for them. So um, I'm not finna question a wrestler who's been in the company to hear conversations from people and who would know. But again, I'm not a WWE sicker fan, so I'm not finna question. I don't need to question it. It is what it is.
Well, I'll put it to you like this. My biggest issue with this isn't so much that she said it, or that she believes it, or that it's probably going to happen. It's that there are so many people, and you alluded to this, that there were so many people who came at her like the WWE was their
Yeah.
personal best friend. Like, they don't know you. They don't care about you. They haven't cared about you in years. They may have never have cared about you. They want your money. They want your money and for you to do what they say. That's it. That's the extent of your relationship. And that's toxic as fuck.
Huh.
They're
But
the
you,
only
but you know,
wrestling promotion that does that, too. And that's the crazy thing. They
but
deliberately mistreat their own clientele. And their fans are just like, no, it's cool. WWE. It's been around for 40 years. It'll never go away.
those dickheads chunk that up to business like they know. And then what's so pissed off about it? You would imagine. I'm thinking. I know what the mindset is. Oh well, you couldn't hack it in WWE. That's why you got fired. So you saying this is you just being a salty ex-employee?
Well, there's a reason why ex-employees end up being salty sometimes, because there's reason for it. Just because someone is disgruntled doesn't mean that they're disgruntled for no reason. If you were once gruntled and now you're disgruntled, there's obviously a reason for it. Now, there might be because you're just a terrible employee and nobody liked you, or it might just be that the company that you work for doesn't care about you. More than likely, it's the latter. Because look at some of the names that got let go. They tried to bury Bray Wyatt on the way out. Now, granted, I actually believe the nonsense about Bray Wyatt, only because this is a dude that left his own wife and child for an affair. So yeah, I could see him being kind of an asshole to everyone. But as far as talent generally getting released, it's never just because they're upset or because they were hard to work with. It's always because the company just wanted to prioritize money over them. And too many people don't want to accept that. This major conglomerate corporation that makes $1 billion a year doesn't actually give a shit about people. Go figure. It's kind of shocking that they're actually this upset about it. Record-breaking year, and we fired everyone. Go figure. Marcus, any final thoughts on tonight's show?
Somebody go check on Ric Flair, please.
Or don't?
Not because not because I care that much, just because and we don't. Like he may be the first person to get like multiple episodes of Dark Side of the Ring or something like just a straight series. I'm like, did he really say he wants to die in the ring with Sam Guevara? It's like he watched those matches he had with Matt Hardy and got turned on.
Ric Flair 3, Dark Side of the Ring. The Reckoning.
It's the reckoning.
Ric Flair 4, Dark Side of the Ring. The 4 Flairmen. All right, that one wasn't as good. It's really hard to come back from the Reckoning. That's how you end the series, the Reckoning. Yeah. All right. Website, realnerdcorp.com, RealNerdcorp.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCORP. We are on Instagram at realnerdcorp. Twitch.tv/Wrestling Underground. There it is. I am going to be changing the website, I think, come January 1st, I think, to Wrestling Underground, so expect that. We'll have to figure out how to make the Twitter handle work. I think I'll relaunch the Nerdcorp Twitter or at least something similar to that in some capacity. But that'll be a decision I make eventually. But yeah, I think that's the way to go. Mostly because comics have really ruined me. I hope all the comic companies go out of business because they've all fucking just irritated me for the last time.
Oh man!
I feel like Willy Wonka. You lose. Good day, sir.
I was really sitting here the other day thinking about because I'm looking at the comics that I bought because I freaking started buying comics because of our show.
Mm-hmm. And now you're hooked.
And I was sitting back there like, man, those used to be the days where I used to look forward to buying books when Chad and Zach was trying to get me into buying it. Then I bought my first comic. Then that became a thing. And then all the way till we fell off collectively. And now we're here. And it's like, wow, man, this just like, the fall off is hard, man.
I think I'm going to get back into them, but I'm going to go indie.
Yeah.
I need to find who's writing what and check some things out. Because I have been seeing some books that I'm interested in, but I haven't gotten around to getting any, so.
Like, it seems like yesterday, Chad was, greatly praising the efforts and talents of the great Tomasi with Superman. And
because it was great.
That damn Bendis came in and...
That damn Bendis wouldn't get off my damn lawn.
That damn Bendis, I'll tell you what.
This neighborhood's great, and all them Bendises came over from the dark side of the neighborhood. Bendis! Can I get an old, crotchety, racist character a go? Just like every racial innuendo, it's just about Bendis.
No, 100% that works. Because I'm thinking, like, how many books did they hand him? I think they handed him one of my Batman Beyonds. I'm like, what are you doing?
Then they turned John from 10 or 11 to 16, and now he's bi, and it's just like, what did you do to him? What did you do to my boy?
Yeah.
And then fucking Lois and Clark 2 Electric Boogaloo on the CW is like, we're going to have 2 Superboys. And I'm like, why? Is one going to be... Did one become the villain? God damn it, Marcus. One became the villain, didn't it?
No, the first one, the one that Jordan, he was annoying enough at first to seem like he was going to become the villain. And they kind of did do the villain when they did like a Kryptonian mind transfer where they transferred the spirit of a Kryptonian into him at the end. But then they got that out. But he's essentially just a good-hearted, basically a good-hearted schmuck. And then the other brothers who's supposed to be the football prodigy, I'm guessing his powers are latent or something. So we'll see.
So one has powers and one doesn't. Yep, that's going to turn into a super villain arc.
Like that's gonna finish well. As Oliver Queen's father from Arrow would say.
God, just everything they did after season 5 of Arrow, just.
But I can't wait to hear you dive into season 3 of Doom Patrol. It's a ride, man.
Yeah, I gotta watch season 3 of Doom Patrol. I gotta see season 3 of Titan. Still, I gotta see season 4 of Young Justice. So I got some shit I gotta watch.
Yeah.
So I'll get to it eventually. Eventually. Unless more Bendises move in from the wrong side of the tracks. I see you, Bendises.
The old Doyle comics.
This comic neighborhood used to be great before you Bendises moved in. Ruining neighborhoods wherever you go. Tearing up comic books everywhere you go.
Bendisburgs. Goddamn.
Bendisburgs! Dingle Bendises.
Exactly.
Dingle Bendis is better.
Dingle Bendis.
Because he's just a giant jingleberry. And like, listen, like, there's a part of me that really likes who Bendis is. He's an adoptive father, and he made Miles Morales because he wanted his adopted son to see a character that looked like him. I thought that was great. And then he came over to DC, and I'm like, I don't think you're so great. Because yeah, Miles Morales, big hit. Name one thing else you did. Can't. One trick pony. One trick pony. By the way, apparently they're doing a Miles Morales live-action trilogy for Sony. So I guess Morbius and Venom are going to have a Spider-Man to play with after all. Check that out. Gonna be awesome.
Let's see how this freaking No Way Home is going to work out, because we all know why these ticket sales are going crazy. They only came there for 2 people. It wasn't Willem Dafoe and Jamie Foxx, unfortunately.
Well, it actually is Willem Dafoe. It's Willem Dafoe and Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
Willem Dafoe. Peter, so long, Spider-Man. And he just gets ganked.
Just a skit of Chad constantly firing Bendis from every title in DC, and then him coming back in a makeshift Green Goblin outfit at Chad's house. Out am I?
Oh, that's my nightmare. That's my nightmare. All right, we're done for this week. We'll see you guys next Monday for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. Be sure to tune in. I was going to say Wrestle Talk. That's a good show. Check them out. Twitch.tv/Wrestling Underground. Marcus can be found on Twitter at ParadoxKid, ParaDoxKid.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TruePennyShow. Be sure to check them out on Twitter as well. You can find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, ChadNerdCorp, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo Hut, ChadSPhotohut. We're done. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. And remember, as always, watch more wrestling. Marcus, take us home.
Good night, me.